What if I told you that debt isn't about the right thing? It's a commercial contract, not a confession of guilt. In this video, I'll show you why most debt is rooted in commerce, not morality, and how understanding this shift in mindset gives you the legal power to challenge the system. Now, I've studied consumer law, contract enforcement, and financial psychology, and I'm here to help you flip the script that they've used to keep you stuck. Now, before we dive into this video, this is not legal advice. This is not financial advice. This is mindset driven and educational purposes only. Okay. My goal is to shift your mindset about debt. My goal is to shift your mindset about finances so that you can be able to get ahead and move forward in this financial game. Number two, if you're brand new, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We want to be at the top of the algorithm so that people will see this type of content. Okay. You guys have been going crazy. We just hit 27,000 subscribers, and it is a blessing that we are here. Let's keep running it up. Road to 50K. All right. Now, what we're going to be talking about is the aspect of debt being a commercial transaction and not really a moral transaction. I think a lot of people feel stuck when it comes to debt because they think that they are doing wrong for not paying their debt. You only are doing wrong to yourself by not reclaiming that energy and reclaiming that power. Okay, allowing someone to take away your freedoms is probably where you should feel guilty. Okay, you shouldn't feel bad about not paying debt. You should. It's more of understanding how the transaction works and how you can communicate through this commercial transaction so that you are not in a disadvantageous position. Everything is about fairness and not necessarily about morality. Banks move in cold legal terms, and they're not really looking at right or wrong. Okay, it's just business at the end of the day. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to talk about how the system profits from your guilt. We're going to really dive deep into that on the psychological side of that. We're going to talk about how the law only sees the paperwork, and we're going to talk about how to respond in the business way. Okay, this is why they call me BizNick, business, because I'm all about business. So it doesn't matter if you're a debt collector, if you're a person, if you're a B2C, B2B, it's about the business. You dig me? All about the facts. We have no emotional attachment to whatever happens. So if we dive into this and I'm going against a debt collector, if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, then I can't be mad. If I lose a negotiation battle, I can't be mad. And same for them. If they lose, they can't be mad. All right. If I win, they just got to tip their hat off. Okay. So we're going to be talking about that so that you guys can start to look at debt more like a business person, then looking at debt like you owe somebody. All right. Keeping it more or less psychological. So let's dive straight into it. First things first, let's just talk about how debt is a commercial transaction. You dig me? Now, most debt arises from agreements, not wrongdoing. So typically we agree to pay a debt, okay? And we're under the assumption that that's exactly what we're doing when we sign a promissory note. Is we are essentially thinking that we are agreeing to pay for something, but the reality is that we are creating a financial instrument, which is a promise to pay. A promise to pay is a negotiable instrument that essentially is a financial asset to the bank. Okay. So when you don't know that, then you think that you're agreeing to pay a debt back. But the reality is you're just signing a contract that, again, makes them money. Okay. Your signature creates the true value behind the debt itself. Okay. We are the only ones who actually are creating the obligation. And it's not necessarily in the sense of, you agreeing to pay back debt. So when you start to shift that focus and shift the understanding of what exactly you are signing from, I agree to pay you back for money that you loaned me, and shift it to, I'm creating a financial asset or instrument to the bank. Okay. You won't think that you're doing wrong when you decide not to pay back a quote unquote agreement. So lending is a business, not necessarily a favor. Okay. Creditors profit from your repayment. So the reality is that we think that when it comes to loans that they are actually lending us money. as a favor. Oh, you are credit worthy, so you know what? We will lend you money. But when you look at 12 USC 1431, which is the powers and duties of banks, they have a duty and obligation to borrow and give security. Security means money. So when you understand that they are doing this so that they can participate in commerce, or that is their duty as a business, a financial institution, then you won't look at it as a favor. Oh, they're doing me a favor, so I have to make sure that they pay me back. And then on top of that, I have to pay interest on it. You dig me? Because they did me a favor. No, they actually make money and a profit from you signing these loan agreements, okay? From you creating negotiable instruments. Because they then securitize it, resell it, you dig me, the contract to Wall Street, to as mortgage-backed securities. They sell it, and essentially they make their money up front. And then you repaying them is all profits at the end of the day. You dig me? They already profit, but then they profit double after the fact, and even more. Okay? So again, just understand that they're going to make double the money, maybe even triple the money when you add on interest. Regardless, it doesn't even matter. Okay? And then they have insurance, so they also make money when you don't, quote unquote, repay them. Okay? When you default, they have insurance that pretty much pays them out. They also have tax write-offs and things in that nature. So again, never feel wrong about not paying your debt. Never feel guilty. Okay? The only thing you should feel guilty about is not understanding how to overcome that. Okay? Allowing someone to take advantage of you. All right? But also at the same time, I'm not here to tell you it's wrong to pay your debt. Okay? If you found a way to make money, and this is why I not only educate people on the debt side, but I educate people on the business side. If you find a way to make money using less energy than you do now, yeah, if you're making $1 million a month and your bills and debts are 5K, 10K, 20K, 30K, you dig me? Yeah, just, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's probably easier for you to just pay your debt, okay? Or if you make 10K a month and your debts are only 2K or 3 or 4, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's nothing wrong with paying your debts. But obviously, if you're in a detrimental situation and you don't have that type of luxury, while you're figuring out how to create an energy source or make that currency much easier to gather, as opposed to you going to work a 9 to 5, working all these hours, making minimal money, using all of your energy. You can put your energy into understanding consumer law and discharging debt and communicating with debt collectors. That's another way to be able to maneuver. Okay. Also want to dive into the fact that collection is more about enforcing the contracts and not really a judgment of character. So they will try to say profane things and make you think that you are going to go to jail or this, that, and the third, just because like you're not paying your debts. And also at the same time, they'll incorporate your credit report and make you feel like there is a score graded to the type of person that you are. But I want you to understand that these are FICO-based models that credit bureaus create, that they aren't really law. They aren't really true risk factors, okay? If you wanted to know if I was going to pay back a debt, all you have to do is you can look at the type of money that I make. You can determine whether or not this loan is actually a risk factor for you, okay? Especially if you're not lending me money, then risk factors don't really matter. Okay, you need my signature in order to participate in commerce. So the reality is that you can't really judge me. Okay, you can't really treat me like I actually will owe you something when I actually won't. So if I understand that, so I won't be bothered by me not paying you, and none of your words of, well, your credit is bad, so what do you want us to do? It's like, well, you're gonna make money off of my loan, off of my promissory note. So what are you going to do? You actually need me, okay? Obviously, if you're talking to the right person, okay? You can't just go to a dealership and you can drop these knowledge bombs on there, but depending on who the dealer is, if they truly want to get the sale, then they will work with you. But if they don't really care, they're not going to work with you, okay? They'll just let you go, all right? Now, paying your debts is marketed as a moral virtue just because it's attached to your credit report. But if you kind of take the credit scoring away, it doesn't really matter. It's not even real, okay? Because if you didn't have a credit score, then you would probably challenge contracts all the time. Think about it. When you go in a situation, if somebody didn't do what they were supposed to do, and obviously if they wasn't going to put this on your credit report, you'll be like, hey, I didn't get the services rendered. Somebody come cut your grass and they did a shit job. You're probably not going to pay them the full amount. Okay? And what are they going to do about it? Complain and cry to the credit bureaus? If they did a shit job, they did a shit job. Excuse my French. All right? And banks are going to maneuver. They don't really maneuver based off of more value. They'll make you think that. They'll sell that to you. They'll persuade you to thinking that it's about more value. But the reality is that banks operate in cold legal terms. Okay? So they're going to maneuver based off of, the law, the legality of things. It doesn't even matter. They're not moving moral because they're double dipping. They're making money off of your contracts and not telling you, and then actually charging you more for something that you created for them. Okay? If anything, they should be giving you money. You should be treated like an investor, my baby. Now, the moment you feel shame for a transaction, you already lost your leverage. So stop feeling shameful. Stop truly caring about whether or not you pay a debt. If you understand, okay, bet when I pay this debt, they're gonna hit my credit report. They're gonna do these things. If those things don't bother you, then you will maneuver much more easier. Okay, you won't feel bad about your credit going up or down because that doesn't really truly affects whether you are a risk factor. Because guess what? If someone wants to say, hey, are you gonna pay back this loan? Show them your bank account. Boom, you see that I can make these payments. Okay. Now, if you don't have a bank account like that, then yes, you kind of want to use credit to your advantage as negotiation power, but don't make it like when you go in school, whether you get an A, B, C, or D will determine whether you are going to succeed in life. There's people out here that were average students like me. I was an average student. I mean, yes, I would say in high school I took AP classes and I was in honors classes, but I was really average. I had a 2.5, 2.7 GPA. Okay. My peers in my honors classes had 3.0, 3.5. Some of them have 4.0, 4.2, whatever the case may be. Smart, good workers, sincere. But the difference between me and them is I was a good reader. The difference between me and them is the fact that I would listen. The difference between me and them is that I would step outside the box. And that's a true test of character. Okay, what are you willing to do? All right, yes, school may not be for you, but it doesn't determine whether you are going to be successful in life like they'll make you think. Okay, dropping a couple of nuggets that are beyond just the debt aspect. But when you start to really have this mindset towards everything, then maneuvering through life and maneuvering through this financial game, maneuvering through this economy is going to be much more smoother. When you're moving at your own pace and you're moving within your own jurisdiction, you're not really worried about what other people say, and even more, these banks that we know are going to get their money's worth regardless. Okay, so stop feeling shame. Who cares if you don't pay your debt? The only person that cares is you. Okay, if you don't pay your debt, they're still going to make money. And if you maneuver that way, then you won't really be upset about challenging them. You will actually just challenge them just for the heck of it. Well, make sure you pay back your debt. Now, obviously, they're going to use things like psychological pressure so that they can profit from your guilt. Okay, so they're going to do things like threaten to repossess your vehicle. They're going to do things like threaten to cut your lights off. They're going to do things like put things on your credit report. They're going to do things like make you feel like you're not creditworthy, that you're a risk. But when you start to challenge them and you shift the burden of proof onto them, now it kind of just flips onto them. Are they moving morally? Are they moving legally? Is more of the question. Okay? Because they'll weaponize shame, embarrassment, and fear. A lot of us feel fear. We're afraid to go into court because we think that they are bigger than us, but the reality is they're much smaller than us. Reality is they have less power than us. The reality is they know that they are doing something wrong, and the only reason that they win is based off of our ignorance. So when you actually know the law and you're actually willing to challenge them based off of your rights, you having more rights than them, then they essentially lose. When they can't weaponize your shame, embarrassment, or fear. When you aren't fearful, when you aren't embarrassed, when you aren't ashamed. You understand me? So I also want you to understand that emotional responses override legal defenses. Okay, you don't want to be too emotional, because being emotional, you know, puts you in more of a detriment than actually understanding the facts and just defending yourself legally. Okay, this is why I dive into UCC 3-305. When you find out that your transaction or your contract is unenforceable, you challenge it. And how do you find out if it's unenforceable? You send conditional acceptance. You ask them directly for questions that they know that they can't answer. Make the contract unenforceable through that conversation, and their acquiesce, and boom, you now have a legal defense. Okay. They also will market debt as failure, when in reality is really just a ledger entry. Okay. Just because you don't pay your debt doesn't mean that you are a failure or that you have failed. Okay. Now, we're not going to sit here and tell you not to. We know inherently, like, okay, bet if you are not looking within the system and you're not planning to challenge them, I will say the more of the failure comes is if you're not willing to do anything about somebody that claims something on you. Okay. If you have a responsibility to either respond to a debt collector, or a responsibility to pay, or a responsibility to perform, and you decide not to perform based off of your emotions, then that right there is you should learn a lesson. I wouldn't call that a failure. Okay, it's more like a lesson learned. And if you don't learn from your lessons, then you can feel shame. Okay. He says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, well, you're not going to fool me 3 times. Okay. If I say it the right way. All right. But the reality is that they want you to feel bad so that you never think logically. Okay. You want to shift the conversation from emotions to logic. You want to shift the conversation from, how you feel, and more about business, because business doesn't care about what you feel. Okay. Like, if you want to become wealthy for your children or for your family members, just because that one day you don't feel like doing it, do you think that your future self is going to care that you felt a certain way one day? I think your future self would appreciate you for saying, you know what, forget how I feel today. Let me go ahead and put in that work. You dig me? That's why I'll create a video every single day. That's why I'll come up with a script and do my research and tap into the knowledge on a daily basis, so that I can be consistent. Moreover, for my future self, because I want to create a legacy. I want to go and look back at myself and say, damn, I remember in June 2025, or from March all the way to June, I was consistent. That Nicholas right there, that 28-year-old Nicholas, is somebody who I can look back and say, you know what, I've done this before. I came so far. I put in the work, okay? So do it for your future self, so that you can look in awe of what you did in the past and use that as fuel anytime you feel like, oh, you can't do it, or you're not the person. You go back and you remind yourself, okay? And also at the same time, you're going to see the growth, okay? Now, I want you to understand that the law only sees paperwork, okay? So, under the UCC and under consumer law, I had a person that shot me a DM saying, hey, how do I do what they say? And this is why it's important for this is what I said to them. They sent me a DM because they grabbed the complete debt guide, and they said, I got your classes. Where can I find the UPS or mailing hack? And it was like they thought that I had some type of mailing hack in the complete debt guide just because I put how to use the postal rule to your advantage. Now, for most people that don't know, okay, and this is why it's important for you guys to really tap into the law beyond just what you hear on the internet. So people will say, they look at the postal rule and they think that the postal rule is some type of mail hack. No, it's a rule about postage, okay? The postal rule of acceptance, also known as the mailbox rule, states that an offer is accepted when an offeree posts a letter of acceptance, not when the offerer receives it. This rule applies to contracts formed through the mail, and it's an exception to the general rule that acceptance is effective upon receipt. So essentially what this is saying is, under the postal rule, when you contracts must have an offer, acceptance, and consideration. Okay, and this dives into the contract law fundamentals. When you send a letter to the post office, it's automatically accepted. Okay, until they either counter it or refuse it. Okay, so if they don't respond, then it's an acquiesce. Okay, so some people will say, okay, well, I sent a letter and I sent this certified. Okay, and all they did was send me the certified mail slip saying that they received it. Regardless if they received it or not, if they do not send you a acceptance, refusal, or a counter offer, then it's already accepted as soon as you drop it off at the post office. That's what the postal rule means. Okay, so then it dives into the contracts, given the fact that that's your offer. They decide there has to be an acceptance, and then the consideration is an even exchange. Okay, so if I sent you a letter asking, my offer was the first thing, then now you have to perform on that offer. Okay, if I ask you for particular details and documentary evidence, your performance is you providing that, and that's the consideration. Okay, now if there's no valid agreement or lawful accounting, it's just a claim, not a fact. So if someone says that you owe a debt and they do not provide if the agreement is invalid or there is no lawful accounting, then essentially it's only alleged. Okay, it's not fact. They try to make you think that just because someone says that you owe a debt, and they may have numbers and this, that, and the third that make you think that that's real numbers. You can claim that anything is alleged until they prove it. Okay, innocent until proven guilty. So this is when you understand FDCPA, 15 U.S.C. 1692G, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the validation of debts. You essentially have a right to challenge the validity of debts. Okay, so I'm showing you this because it's not emotion based. You're not going to sit there and you're going to point at them and say, hey, is this debt valid? And you're not going to use the proper process. You know what I mean? They may say you can't do that. No, yes, you can. Okay, they're moving emotional by literally trying to lie to you. Okay, and the law doesn't see that. The law doesn't care if they finesse you through lies. If you understand the truth and the facts, you just hit them with the facts. Hey, I'm demanding the debt validation, and you have a duty and obligation to make sure you give me what I'm asking for. Then we dive into UCC 3-305. UCC 3-305. You know what I mean? Under UCC 3-305, you have defenses and claims against recoupment against a defense of an obligor based on the infancy of the obligor to the extent it is a defense to a simple contract if there is duress, lack of legal capacity, illegality of the transaction, which under law nullifies the obligation, fraud induced the obligor to sign an instrument, and so on and so forth. The right of the holder in due course to enforce the obligation of the party to pay an instrument is subjected to the defenses of the obligor stated in subsection A1, but is not subjected to the defenses of the obligor stated in the subsection or claims of recoupment stated in the subsection A3 against a person other than the holder. So, long story short, under the holder in due course law, UCC 3-305 is the fact that, hey, if they're not the holder in due course and they can't prove they are, then you essentially can challenge the enforceability of that contract. All right. Now, those are just two basic laws, 15 U.S.C. 1681 92G and UCC 3-305. Very simple, and one kind of complicates the aspect of challenging debt. But when you know these two laws, I mean, on the very premise that you can ask for validation. I don't care what they will say. It doesn't matter who it is. You can ask for validation. Okay, this is why in my last video, when I talked about child support and I broke down the different companies that you will ask for validation and take them through the conditional acceptance process, there is no limit. You can ask the child support enforcement agency. You can ask the attorney general. You can ask the county clerk or the court clerk. You can ask that third party debt collector. You can ask the police officer when they show up in court. Okay? Debt is only enforceable if the paperwork holds up, not because you feel bad. Okay, if the paperwork doesn't hold up, then you don't need to pay it. But if it does, hey, do what you got to do. It's business. All right, BizNick, business. All right. Now, Here's how to respond like it's a business. My baby, first things first, you want to send validation letters. Don't apologize. Hey, I'm sorry for this, that, and the third. Then you're asking for permission. Stop asking for permission. Just go ahead and send a validation letter. Okay? Because they don't care. They're going to charge you extra money. They're going to do all of this. They're going to make you pay all these extra fees and this, that, and the third with no remorse. So number two, on top of that, you want to send a conditional acceptance letter. I go through this every single video because people think that it's different for each situation. No, it's the exact same. If you master these key things that I'm talking about, then you are going to be able to start challenging debt and stop moving with emotion. Okay? This is why when people come and talk to me and they ask me the same type of questions, it's almost like y'all not watching my videos. Okay? If you finally got to this part of the video, I want you guys to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You dig me? The reason why I'm very specific and I tell people go watch the YouTube videos is because I break it down in every YouTube video what you should be doing. It's the exact same. It's called the administrative process, a communication through a collection of presentments. Okay? Yes, you can get the presentments in my complete debt guide. The complete debt guide is in the link in the description. But obviously you can take all of these terms and you can type it into Google and figure out how to create it on your own. Okay? So send debt validation letters. Use conditional acceptance, meaning you're asking for proof, not forgiveness. Okay, I'm sorry for not paying my debts. No, it's, hey, look, I will agree if you can prove X, Y, and Z. Respond with documentation, not desperation. Don't be desperate. Okay? Technically, it doesn't matter if you pay the debt. Okay? There are some situations where you pay a debt collector and they still report it on your credit report as a negative item. Okay? Focus on the process and procedures, contracts, accounting, and obligations. Okay? Understand contracts, understand how the accounting works, and understand what an obligation is. Okay? You create your obligation with your signature. You bring the value to the contract, and they do some back-end accounting so that they can be able to keep the money and make you think that you have the money. Okay? Understand the aspect of taking them through the administrative process and the procedures of going to courts. Okay? Don't be afraid to do these things. Just do it and take action, especially if you have no choice but to do it. If you're not going to pay it, then take what I'm saying and learn as much as you can. Okay? Review as many YouTube videos as you need to review, but also at the same time, go and do your own due diligence. Make sure to educate yourself. Make sure to tap into the information. Use this as inspiration to where it's like, damn, if I can talk like BizNick, or I can talk like Nicholas, or I can talk like Christina Wilson, or if I can talk like Brandon Joe Williams, or I talk like this person, Mansa Musa, and all these different people, you know, thinking of, if I don't say your name, I love you. But essentially just take the emotion out and just do the work. Whether it's you got to educate yourself, whether it's you got to write the paper down. Most of us, and I've spoken to, say, look, I've been studying this for years, but I just never took action. Well, take action today. Okay? You learn more by doing than by not doing. You know, ignorance on fire is better than knowledge on ice. Okay? So obviously I'm not telling you to be ignorant and just keep, you know, send these templates, but sometimes that's what you got to do so that you can learn that sending the template is not us. That's not all you need to do. Sometimes you need to do that so that you can see how they respond and you can start to do your research. How can I respond back? This is how I learn, by making mistakes. Okay? See, I'm not afraid of failure. I'm not afraid of doing things that I could potentially lose at, because I know that I'll learn more by losing than by winning. Okay? So understand, you are not morally wrong for challenging debt. You are legally within your right to demand proof of any debt. Don't make this a moral conversation. Keep it business. It's not about shame. It's about commerce. You dig me? And when you shift from guilt to strategy, you move from victim to creditor. Now, down below, if you want to learn more about what it is that I'm talking about, you want the templates, you want the procedures, you want to understand how to communicate with debt collectors, you want to understand how to tap in and communicate in the court system, tap in with the complete debt guide down below. Okay, this is the only thing that I offer in specific to debt discharge. Okay, if you want to truly take this part serious, tap into the complete debt guide. It is super affordable for anybody to tap into it, and on top of that, it is something that you can become an affiliate of. Okay. Number two, if you want to work with me one-on-one, not specifically pertaining to debt discharge, tap into the one-on-one because I help people fix their credit, I help people get funding, and I help people build a online business. Specifically, if you have a credit repair business, then working with me will probably be a really good strategy because I'll help you get leads and I'll help you really systematize your business, okay, and bring strategy to your business. Number 4, tapping with me at biz.nick on Instagram, tapping me at Twitch at biz_nick. That's where I do the live breakdowns first. For those of you guys that's on Twitch, I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching the Twitch. Have you ever been made to feel bad about the debt? Share your story in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe, turn on the post notifications because we are talking about things that nobody is talking about. If you got all the way to the end, comment the word discharge and I'll see you in the next one.